Welcome back to another episode of Talk of the Town here on We Are Centurion TV. Over the next 2 weeks, we will be having a diverse group of guests on the show, so make sure to subscribe to not miss any of these conversations. And we've already had 2 wonderful interviews, so if you've missed those, be sure to check out our channel and go and see those 2 interviews. I'm your host, Caitlin, and I'm joined here today by my co-host, Andre.
Good evening.
And our very special guest for today we are going to have one conversation here on Zoom with part of the cast of Aspoestertjie that's being held at the Afriforum Theater. And then our second part of today's interview is going to be with Stephan van Basten, who is the Chief Success Facilitator at Life Quest Coaching. So first, I'm going to give it over to Andre to speak to our cast here on Zoom from Aspoestertjie.
Thank you, Caitlin.
Thank you, Caitlin. Good evening, cast.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. Hallo, goeienaand. Goeienaand.
Fantasties, ons hoor julle hard en duidelik.
Yay.
Welkom en baie dankie dat julle besige skedules vir ons 'n rukkie van julle tyd afgestaan het om so 'n bietjie meer vir ons te kom vertel van dit waarmee julle besig is en klaarblyklik verskaf dit vir julle groot vreugde as ek na die glimlagte op julle gesigte kyk.
Ja, nee. Ons het nou net ingerush van rehearsals af. Ons het vandag ons eerste gehoor gehad. So dit was regtig werklik baie lekker, ja. Ons lag baie en ons het net 'n fantastiese tyd en ons cast is amazing. Ek is baie bevoorreg om saam met al hierdie wonderlike mense te werk. Maar ja, dit is great om te weet ons eerste show is agter die rug en nou moet ons net fokus op die volgendes.
Yes. Wonderlik. As ek kan vra, net vir die van ons wat nie 100% seker is nie, verduidelik net so in kort vir ons 'n pantomime. Wat is dit? Wat behels dit? Skep vir ons 'n bietjie konteks rondom dit.
Leah. Oh, okay. So 'n pantomime, ek dink oorspronklik is dit eintlik 'n kinderverhaal, maar in vandag se tyd en wat ons basies 'n verhaal wat almal ken, maar ons sit so 'n bietjie van 'n spin daarop. Ons maak dit 'n bietjie meer komies. Almal ken natuurlik die storie van Aspoestertjie. Dis al 'n ou verhaal. Ek speel Cindy, kort vir Cinderella. En die storie het ons so klein bietjie ook nog verander moderne tye te pas. Daar's bietjie verander aan die storie net in terme van die moderne elemente, bietjie anders te musiek. En eintlik kan 'n mens sê dis 'n verhaal met 'n twist, as ek dit so kan stel.
Ja nee, beslis. As kan ook byvoeg. Dis 'n pantomime is ook 'n tipe styl van teater. So jy vat nou 'n gewone storie of 'n sprokiesverhaal soos Aspoestertjie nou byvoorbeeld. En daar's sekere reëls wat gebeur in die teater self. So daar's gewoonlik altyd 'n rol, gewoonlik 'n ma-figuur of sê nou in Aspoestertjie die 2 stiefsussies wat gespeel word deur 'n man wat gegrimeer is en aangetrek is soos 'n vrou. Dis gewoonlik soos jou mamma karakter. En ek is nou een van daai.
My karakter sister.
Ja. My karakter se naam is Marabella. En die ander stiefsussie word gespeel deur Skoman Smit, Amaranta. En basies die rol van 'n duim in 'n pantomime is soos 'n ma-figuur of nou in hierdie storie dis net ingebring om bietjie spice in te sit in die storie in. En soos wat Leah genoem het, 'n pantomime is ook jy sit moderne references daarin. Wat partykeer is 'n pantomime 'n kind se eerste blootstelling aan teater. So die hele doel daarvan, soos wat Janice Hanneman ook noem met haar pantos, is jy probeer die kinders nou wys al die wonders wat gebeur in teater. So dis ligte, spare no expense, dis gewoonlik die duurste produksie van die jaar. En dis kostuums en dis moderne musiek en dis grappies wat almal kan vang. En ook wat pantomime ook bietjie spesiaal maak is die draaiboek is so geskryf dat die kinders kan lag, maar ook die ouers wat die kinders teater toe kan bring, kan ook lag. En dis gewoonlik so in die skrip ingebou, 'n stoute grappie hierso en daarso. Net so dat die paas nie aan die slaap raak.
Ek wil dit graag uitsit daar buite vir die van julle wat nog nie weet nie. Die produksie is soos Caitlin gesê het by die Afriforum Theater van die 4de tot die 13de Desember. En ja, net deur die bietjie wat julle nou al reeds gedeel het, voel dit vir my as jy dit mis, dan soos hulle in Engels sê, if you miss this, you've missed out. En weer eens, ek kry die gevoel van 'n gesinsaktiwiteit.
Ja, natuurlik. Ek dink veral die Afrikaanse gehoor is nie heeltemal seker wat 'n pantomime is nie. Dit het die bron van pantomime is eintlik maar in Engeland, as ek dit reg het. Dis baie groot tradisionele wat op Kerstyd plaasvind, maar dit is regtig vir die hele familie en ons probeer 'n nuwe magic in theater skep, in die Afrikaanse kultuur veral, met ons eie pantomime, en dit is regtig baie pret. So ek hoop almal kom kyk, al is hulle net bietjie nuuskierig, net om die styl te ervaar, en ook, ons het groot sterre in die show, ons het Leah, en ons het Marnu, en ons het Grant, en ons het vir my, Carmen, ek speel die Stephan, random, baie lekker. Dit is werklik iets om soos Grant gesê het, wat baie belangrik is, om die kinders en die hele familie aan theater voor te stel, en dit is regtig lekker, dit is regtig pret.
Nou, ek dink nie dit is net 'n vertoning nie, ek dink dit is 'n hele ervaring, want dit is 'n storie wat deur verskillende karakters vertel word en vertolk word. Dit is kleure, dit is interessante kleure en kostuums, dit is musiek wat jy gaan ken. Daar is bekende Engelse musiek ook, maar ons sing van ons eie Afrikaanse liedjies, en van hulle word ook so 'n bietjie geremix. So ek voel dit is regtig 'n ervaring vir die hele familie, en ook vir elke liewe sintuig en sens. So dis regtig iets van alles.
Dit is so exciting, en baie dankie dat julle dit met ons deel. Ek wil 'n bietjie vra of elkeen van julle dalk 'n bietjie agtergrond kan gee, en hoe julle opgeëindig het by hierdie spesifieke produksie, en hoe dit die challenges was, en hoe dit sover vir julle is. Daar kan ons weer by Leah begin, en dan so in 'n sirkeltjie omgaan.
So lank storie kort, ek het musiekteater gestudeer, baie jare terug, maar teater is absoluut in my bloed, en dis iets wat ek nog altyd wou gedoen het. Die geleenthede was nie noodwendig daar vir my gewees vroeër jare nie, en ek sou Doringroosie in 2020 gespeel het, maar toe kom COVID en lockdown, en hierdie het basies oor my pad gekom, maar nou weet ek, het met ons regisseur Ferdinand gepraat, en hulle het so 'n bietjie gesels vir wie kan hulle nader vir dit, en toe hulle met my begin praat oor Aspoestertjie, het ek geensins getwyfel nie. Ek wou dit nog altyd gedoen het, en wat dit so lekker maak is, ja, dit is theater, maar dit is regtig soos dit vul elke liewe iets van my liggaam. Dit is regtig baie dit verrykend. Dit is verskriklik verrykend. En soos ek vroeër gesê het, ek speel Cindy, ek is Aspoestertjie, ek maak verskriklik baie skoon. Die verhoog is nou baie skoon. En ja, dis regtig net 'n voorreg om dit te kan doen, en ook om dit in Afrikaans te doen. Ek dink daar is baie min teatergeleenthede noodwendig in Afrikaans, en ek wens daar was meer, want ons het sulke ongelooflike ondersteuners in Afrikaans, baie loyale ondersteuners ook, en ek dink as iemand net eers 'n bietjie die magic van teater sien vir die eerste keer, is dit iets wat jou net hoek vir die res van jou lewe. My man was glad nie 'n teaterganger nie, nou na 'n klompie jare, hy is letterlik hooked, hy sal enige teatershow gaan kyk, so dit kan met enige gebeur.
Jy meen jy het die potensiaal raak gesien lank voor hy dit besef het.
Presies, net so.
Ek weet nie wie
Um,
is volgende in die sirkel nie, want ek dink ek weet nie wat dis 'n mengelmoes van mense.
ek dink gaan nie maar voort, Carmen.
Ja, en jy is klaar daar.
Hallo. Ja, so ek is Carmen en ek is vir die afgelope 16 jaar al in musiekteater primarily maar ook gedabbel in local South African sepies in Engels en Afrikaans. Mense sal my ken van binnelanders af, Lien se lang staan skoene, ek het Lien Jooste gespeel, is nie aan die Afrikaanse gehoor, en baie internasionale musiekblyspelle gedoen en mee getoer soos Chicago en Sound of Music en Jersey Boys. So ja, dit is my agtergrond en dit is nou vir my die eerste keer wat ek het Doringrosie gespeel toe ek 20 was en nou het my loopbaan bietjie in die rigting van die stiefma gedraai. En dit is baie opwindend vir my omdat ek altyd getypecast was as, which is a good thing, as Aspoestertjie of die ingenue. Maar mens kom ook op 'n punt waar jy moet pivot. So vir my is dit baie opwindend en 'n groot uitdaging om nou die ma te speel. En ook, maar ook dit is baie meer it's closer to my personality om die ma te speel. Kyk, ek dink ek is bietjie meer feisty, dalk bietjie meer sassy. So ag, is lekker. Ja, en ek en Grant en Skuman speel baie lekker saam. Is gewoonlik in 'n pantomime is daar die komediese karakters. En dit is nou die twee sissies en ek speel nou obviously hulle ma. So ons vind regtig baie interessante maniere om regtig 'n stuk vol pret te maak. Jy weet, ek dink as iemand kyk en hulle is wakker, there's never a dull moment. Daar's altyd 'n jump of 'n ietsie. En dis vir my baie lekker om dit te kan vertolk.
Grant, ek moet sê ek kan nou nogal daai komediant karakter op jou gesig sien as ek jou nou so moet opsom. Dan kan ek nou nogal sê dat jy een is vir 'n grap en 'n streek of twee. Maar
ja nee.
Ja. Carmen, dit moet nog veel makliker wees, skus Grant. Ek wil net gou by Carmen hoor. Ek wil sê jy het voorheen Doringrosie gespeel. Het dit vir jou bepaal 'n bydrae gelewer op of in die manier waarop jy tans jou rol vertolk, omdat jy daai kant ook al beleef het prakties en dit moes vertolk?
Ja, beslis. Ek dink dis vir my belangrik om albei kante te kan verstaan. En dis moeilik om Doringrosie te speel. Leah se job, weet ek is happy ek het dit gedoen, maar sy's altyd op die verhoog. Sy sing baie en beautiful, as ek mag sê. Doringrosie is die star van die show en 'n mens werk hard om die ingenue te speel. En ek dink nie daar is 'n beter Doringrosie as Aspoestertjie, Cinderella, Cindy as Leah nie. En ek verstaan heeltemal die werk wat daarin gaan. Nie dat die stiefma noodwendig makliker is nie. Dis net anders. En ek dink daai grounding en die understanding van wat Cinderella in die storie inbring is vir my wat ek nou skielik 'n karakter speel, baie belangrik, want 'n mens moet die heeltyd met jou mede-akteur charisma hê, jy weet. So as jy verstaan, as jy altyd kan te verstaan, is dit baie informative. Belangrik, actually.
Ja, dankie.
Dan kan ons oorgaan na Grant toe. Ek kan hom nie
Grant, is jy met ons?
sien nie.
Hy het gevrees.
Grant has been in.
Dit is seker nou
Ek is seker Grant vanuit terugkom.
Terwyl
Ek wil dit baie graag noem, kan ek gou interrupt, maar wat vir my so interessant is van hierdie pantomime is dat as ek nou vat Carmen se karakter Madame Violetta en nou die twee stiefsusters, hulle is hierdie absolute hofuiterste karakters. En hulle klim 120% in hulle karakters in en dit is so lekker om dit te kyk. Van baie keer op die verhoog dan staan ek nou daar en ek maak nog skoon en hulle is besig met hulle lyne. En dan sê ek net vir myself, ek wil eintlik nou in die gehoor gaan sit en hierdie aanskou want dit is so fantasties, hulle is so goed en hulle gaan jou so laat lag. Dit is incredible. Maar as jy nou soos wat Carmen gesê het, jou doringroosie of jou aspoestertjie is meer die natuurlike karakter van begin tot einde. Wat wel nog steeds groei en. Maar ja, die stiefsissies en die stiefma is ongelooflik entertaining.
Almal moet vir Cinderella lief hê, 120% lief hê en almal moet vir ons haat, 120% haat. Maar ook secretly lief hê.
Ja.
Grant, jy's terug.
Welkom terug, die Grant.
Sy weer gevrees. Dis dalk maar die koneksie, die wifi.
Ja.
Hi. Ons is lief vir jou, Grant. Kom terug.
terwyl ons van wag, wil ek vra vir Leah en Carmen, wat is as julle sal sê met julle en julle karakters, wat is iets wat julle voel, julle is dieselfde, soos Leah, wat vind jy in jouself is dieselfde as Aspoestertjie, maar wat is dalk ook baie anders vir jou, of wat is dalk moeilik om te vertolk?
Ek dink vir my is dit die feit dat Cindy is tog ambisieus en sy wil graag meer vir haarself hê. Ek dink ek was nog altyd daai tipe mens. Tog is sy in 'n hartseer situasie, maar sy het nie vir my noodwendig 'n hartseer karakter nie, as ek dit so kan stel. En sy is iemand wat toe uiteindelik uit die situasie uitkom. Mens wil sê die prins het haar gered, maar tog ek dink is die hoop en die geloof wat sy ook gehad het, wat haar uitgekry het. So ja, dit sal dit wees.
En dan kom ons kyk terwyl ons vir Grant hier het, en die koneksie.
Wel, maar sy nog werk.
Ja.
Ek sal maar net 'n bietjie praat oor die karakters en daai. So was nou gepraat van ons het nou die stiefma, ons het nou Cinderella wat the good and the bad in die storie is. En die stiefsusters is maar eintlik daar net om brats te wees die hele tyd, mense te laat lag. Jy weet, ons het nou die mense wat in die regte wêreld karakter is. Maar mense het dit nodig sodat die narre basies kan die frivolity van die lewe uitwys, die van daai dinge. Ek self is ook in die musiekteaterbedryf vir al ek dink so 11, 12, 13 jaar. Ook meestal in musiekblyspelle gespeel. Ek het altyd by drome gedoen in 2016, 2017 wat by Monty en by Afriforum Theater was. En ek en Carmen was saam op Chicago gewees. Sy was die Roxy Hart en ek was Amos Hart, haar man gewees, as jy Chicago ken. En so deur jare, jy weet, kom almal so by mekaar en deur mekaar. Ek wil ook net 'n bietjie praat van ook entertainment, wat nou gestig is die Cameron Botha. En hierdie is ook maar hulle eerste blootstelling van 'n pantomime, so te sê. So as vervaardigers, hulle is nogals nuut in die game, was omtrent so 5 jaar aan die gang. Hulle doen baie jeugteater, en hulle werk baie goed daaraan, hulle maak seker om 'n produksie elke jaar te doen, ook om op die skepe te sit. En ja, Cameron ken ons almal. Dis basies, hy was ook selfs in die bedryf gewees, en hy het nou 'n trekkie weggestap en nou in vervaardiging ingegaan. Maar hy het basies nou almal gebel en gesê, luister, chomme, ons gaan nou hierdie projek bymekaar stel. Stel julle belang en ek dink ons het almal eintlik gespring vir die opportunity. En ek ken nou Carmen ook nou oor die jare as nou soos die young lead en daai goeters en dis nou en dis nou haar eerste keer wat sy nou in so 'n rol in stap, as ek nou direk vertaal. En dis ook soos mense wat al twee van hierdie besonderse dames ken. Julle gaan aan 'n ander kant van hulle sien in hierdie show. Jy weet, Leah is 'n bekende sangeres. Maar haar acting chops is nogal goed en haar en Marno se chemistry op die stage is nogal betowerend. Ek het al vir hulle gesê in die repetisies. It really is just, it's been so much fun to put together. Almal het saamgetrek vir hierdie projek en ons is nogals baie trots daarop om hierdie fun en hierdie storie en hierdie magic te deel vir die mense. Ons sien nogals uit om vir julle te speel.
Baie dankie. Ek dink ek is baie opgewonde en ek wil graag weet waar kan ek kaartjies koop? En daar kan julle vir ons kykers ook vertel waar kan ons kaartjies kry, waar kan ons dit sien? Want dit klink soos 'n baie fun family outing wat ons almal kan bywoon.
Ja, beslis. So kaartjies is beskikbaar op die Afriforum Theater website. As jy net daarin gaan vir jou profiel skep en dan kan jy kaartjies vir jou daar bestel. Daar is afslag vir group bookings. Ek dink dit is meer as 10 of 15 mense. Dan kry jy 20% af van die kaartjies. So goed vir ook jaareinfunksies. Dit is nogal 'n ideal thing to do vir alles mense nou last minute bietjie soos okay, ons het nou 'n budget vir iets, maar ons weet nie waarop ons dit spandeer nie. Vat jou werkskollegas Aspoestertjie toe, daar's iets daar vir almal.
Ja, ons is van die 4de Desember, vandag, tot die 13de. So ons is nie baie tyd nie. So boek julle kaartjie.
Boek.
Wat ook lekker is dat daar is op verskillende dae is daar verskillende tye van die vertonings. Soos byvoorbeeld vandag se was 10:00 die oggend, môre is weer 10:00. Vrydagoggend het ons 'n 10:00 show, maar ons het ook 'n aand vertoning en dan Saterdag is daar 3. Ek is ongelukkig nie Saterdag op die verhoog nie. Ek moet PE toe gaan vir ander vertonings, maar dan weer Sondag is daar nog 2 vertonings. En dan maak ons volgende Vrydag alweer klaar. So dis soos hulle sê, dit is kort tydjie. En ons het in 'n kort tydjie ook alles mekaar gesit, maar dit was 'n magical proses en almal het regtig, ek dink die cast is almal handpicked en pas so perfek by mekaar almal in. En dit is hoekom ons dit alles so goed aan mekaar kon sit in 'n kort tyd. En nou is dit 'n kort tyd om dit vir julle te wys. Moet julle asseblief kom kyk. Julle gaan lekker lag, julle gaan dalk so 'n bietjie huil. En ek dink julle gaan net betower word. Ek dink dis die regte woord. Dis betowerend.
Fantasties. Ek wil net noem vir almal daar buite, julle het nou genoem van die Afriforum Theater se webblad waar mense kan kaartjies bespreek. Ook op ons eie webtuiste, www.wearecenturion.co.za op die eventskalender, sal julle die inligting daar kry. En dan wil ek nou sommer vir julle vra. Ek het onder andere ook gesien dat julle het 'n klip, as ek nou maar die Engels kan gebruik, op Facebook. So 'n bietjie van 'n lusmakertjie is. Ja, waar kan mense, waar adverteer julle nog, waar bemark julle nog?
Ons is almal op Instagram. Search net Leah, search vir Grant, search vir my, Carmen, Pretorius. Ons post die hele tyd baie cool content van soos wat se mannewalas ons kwyt raak agter die skerms en wat gebeur backstage en die lekker ding van hierdie produksie is dat mense regtig kan kyk wat gebeur binne in 'n repetisie scenario en ons het die hele tyd ons hele journey gekatalog. So kyk 'n bietjie daaraan en dan kom en dan kan jy die ware lywe sien al die mense wat jy op social media sien, kyk vir Leah, kyk vir Marnie, kom sien hulle in real life. En ek dink Instagram is dit baie maklik met ons het almal al die kaartjies gelink. Jy kan net link van ons stories af na AfriForum se webtuiste. Ja, dis lekker. En social media is 'n huge thing nou. Is lekker. Volg ons, kom kyk wat ons doen backstage. Ja, pret.
En as jy dit alles wil in een plek kry, kan jy ook vir Oak Entertainment soek op Instagram. Hulle repost al die stories wat ons opsit. So dan kan jy ons almal so daar vind.
Ja.
Fantasties. Baie dankie julle.
Ja, dit was lieflik om met julle te kan gesels en baie dankie dat julle ons gejoin het vanaand op ons show. En ons tyd hardloop nou 'n bietjie uit, so ons gaan moet goodbye sê, maar weer eens baie dankie dat julle vir ons bietjie kom vertel het en bietjie behind the scenes van julle karakters. Ons het dit vreeslik geniet en dan vir ons kykers ook, gaan boek jou kaartjies, gaan soek Oak Entertainment, gaan soek almal op Instagram, en dan weer eens soos Andre gesê het, dit is ook op ons eventskalender op ons website. Dan kan jy daar ook sien watter daar die shows is en waar om die kaartjies te kry. So, ja, en maak 'n goeie family outing daarvan of soos wat julle ook gesê het, 'n jaarfunksie vir die werksmense. So baie dankie dat julle altyd hier so was vanaand en dan gaan ons vir julle baie sê.
Baie dankie julle.
Baie dankie.
Dankie. Hoopelik sien ons julle daar. Dankie.
Lekker aand.
Dankie.
Bye.
Bye.
Ek wil net graag vir ons kykers en luisteraars noem dat ons sal al die skakels laai op ons webtuiste ook. Julle sal dit daar ook kan kry. En ja, kyk maar uit. Ons sit dalk vir julle so 'n spotjie daar ook by dat vir julle sommer net so ekstra aanmoediging is om ook dan die vertoning te gaan kyk by die AfriForum Theater.
Dis hy. Awesome. So dit sluit dan af deel 1 van vanaand se Talk of the Town episode. And then we are going to move on to part 2 with our very special guest. Welcome. We are joined here with Stephan van Basten. If you are only joining us now, we are here with Stephan van Basten, the Chief Success Facilitator at Life Quest Coaching. Welcome, and we are very happy to have you here with us tonight.
It's fabulous to be here. I want to go and see Aspoestertjie. They were so great.
Yes, and they seem so lovely.
They're so excited and it's contagious.
Yes.
And they tell us they just came off a rehearsal and they don't even look tired. It's
They must work hard.
professionals.
So today, Stephan, we want to talk to you a bit about marriage. That's a big topic. But before we get into our topic for today, I want to talk a bit about background. Who are you? You have a huge amount of experience in the corporate space. You've been married for 32 years, and you have a beautiful daughter, which you feel is your most significant accomplishment in your life, besides all of the corporate things that you've done, all of the books that you've written, the coaching that you do, the teachings that you give. So maybe you can give us a bit of the background of who you are.
Gosh, how much time do you have? Yes, so I think my greatest accomplishment is a 32-year marriage with a 30-year-old kid that actually appreciates me and claims to love me. You know, success is when your kid still appreciates you at 30. Yeah, you know, it's just been interesting. My whole life really has been around soul unfoldment and spiritual development, trying to understand the meaning of life, what it is all about, the strange planet we've landed on with a whole bunch of rather weird people. I was born into a strange family. I was the third born and I created havoc there apparently, I'm told later on. So everything really just been a very philosophical and spiritual journey. Me personally, I believe I'm a soul with a body. Not a body with a soul, I'm firstly a soul, and this is a lifetime I am privileged to experience and go through. So yeah, it's a long question and a longer answer. Does that suffice for now?
Yes, I love how you said you are a soul here in a body to experience life. And one of the biggest experiences we have in life is oftentimes marriage. And we get married because we love each other. So maybe we can start off our little topic with an even bigger question of what is the definition of love to you?
Very good, thank you. So, you know, there was a book called or titled The Road Less Travelled. It was written by a very famous psychiatrist, Scott Peck. And his definition of love, in actual fact, before we give you that, what's your definition?
I knew you were going to ask that.
Love? Because it's actually not definable. It's something as humans don't have really. I think the greatest love is agape love. That's the God of love for us, which I think has been misinterpreted. So I have a different view on a lot of things. But please, what do you think? How would you define love?
Maybe we can start with Andre.
Oh,
We start on this side.
we
Start on this side of the table.
For the Springboks, that was a good pass. Hospital pass there.
I think if I have to summarize it in one sentence or in one statement, then for me it will be to live a selfless life. I mean, we could obviously elaborate on that, but I think that for me would be the start of.
So in marriage, it would be being a selfless husband.
Exactly.
Okay, very good.
Exactly.
I
yes.
like that. Okay, very good. Nothing wrong with that. There are no right or wrong answers. They're just opinions. And yourself?
That's a very big question to answer, and it's something that I've thought about a lot. But like you say, it's not really identifiable, and it means something different for everyone. But I think in the last couple of years, I've realized that love is the most important thing for us humans is relationships with each other. And love can come in different forms with our kids, with our friends,
Our
families, partners, pets. And I think
Love of pizza.
the love of pizza, yes, or ice cream,
Without,
or whatever,
pineapple.
or a good steak, yes. And so I think always growing together and giving each other space, I think, is also what love means to me, is giving someone the space to be who they are, and creating relationships and always never giving up on the other person, always working on growing that relationship. To me, that is, if you really love someone, is always working on that relationship and trying to make it better and grow.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Would be my answer.
Whoever gets to marry you one day is very fortunate.
Oh, thank you.
So Scott Peck's definition, which I like, is one's willingness to expend energy on another's spiritual and personal growth. And I like that because it takes out the sexual stuff. And I'd like to talk about the phenomena of falling in love. But the definition, and I'll get to Scott I like it. One's willingness to expend energy on another's spiritual growth, which both of you actually incorporated in different ways. So it's facilitating the growth. I think the biggest gift you can give anyone in any relationship is facilitating the growth in them that brings out the best in them, or the real them. Makes you more you every day. Yeah. And then, you know, he it's very interesting. He describes the phenomena of falling in love as a chemical reaction that, so actually what we experience as falling in love is actually oxytocin, which is a bonding chemical. And basically, when you fall in love, you're generally physically attracted first. And it's a chemical reaction. And he says essentially it's a chemical reaction. It's our bodies playing a trick on us to ensure that we get our clothes off, get naked, and procreate. Because let's face it, if it wasn't fun, we'd be too lazy to do it, right? So when we think so if you don't mind me saying, when we believe we're falling in love, actually we're often falling in chemistry or falling in lust. Now that's lovely, but that's not love. In my opinion, love is more a friendship. So, you know, and actually we'll forgive our friends for things we won't forgive our partners for. So if your friend came to you and said, "Oh, I've been naughty, I was unfaithful," you'll go, "That's very naughty, but I still love you." But you probably won't do that for your spouse, right? So, you know, those are some of the things that, you know, we need to discuss as we're getting married. One of the many things is just, love and what it means and what. Yeah, please carry on. What's the next thought?
How about, so as you say, like a lot of times we fall in lust and not in love. How do you know which partner to choose, and how do you feel about something like soulmates? Like, do you feel that there are soulmates?
So 2 questions in this. I don't think you ever know for sure. I personally don't think that you can ever know who your ideal partner is, and that you're going to get married and live happily ever after. That nobody knows. And it's just not possible to know. So soulmates is an interesting concept. Spiritually, soulmates are defined as 2 souls who were once one, who split and then meet up again. And we have this fantasy about, I meet my soulmate, it's all going to be lovely and fairy tale and etc., etc. But your true soulmate will be your exact opposite, because that would complete you. And they will drive you bazonkers. Now, John De Martini, a really great guy, I love him. He's a very clever human behavior specialist. He speaks about the soulmate as your soulmate are all of the people in your life who fulfill your needs. So, for example, Jackie, my wife, doesn't play golf. So I find other people to play golf with. They fulfill those needs. I enjoy curry and hot food. She doesn't, so I eat hot food with other people. They fulfill that need for me. So actually, it's all of the people in you. So for example, if you love laughing, the people who make you laugh are part of that soulmate. And the beauty of that teaching is actually quite profound. And it kind of proves, because we can go through a list. I can get you to write down all of the things that you would want in a soulmate. Then you'll write a list of all the people who currently fulfill that for you. And there will always be someone, and the beauty of that is nothing's missing in your life. You're already fully fulfilled. Yeah, I also want to cry.
But then I want to just throw this.
Please, thank you.
You said something earlier, when you had a bit of a definition of falling in love. Now, I'm sitting here thinking, when I fell in love with my wife, back then she wasn't my wife yet, but she is now. So
congratulations. How long have you been married?
It'll be 20 years.
Excellent. Congratulations. Keep going.
Yeah, thank you. So when I fell in love with her, subconsciously, I obviously identified something which I was attracted to. All right. Now, and here's the question. Oftentimes you hear couples, I don't want to only say married couples, because I think it also happens in couples that aren't yet married. You hear people say, but why is he or she trying to change me? The point I'm trying to get to is this. Are we not better off zoning in on what it is that you initially fell in love with, was attracted to, and having that developed, having that brought to the forefront more? And in that sense, as you said, bringing out the best in that individual, and vice versa, as opposed to getting to the point where I'm trying to change my wife in order to fit into a certain box, if you will. I don't know.
Yep, it's a beautiful ideal, and actually, under the topic of you can have a better marriage starting tomorrow, if you were to ask me what's the number one thing or ingredient for that, I would say accepting and managing diversity. So, in other words, John De Martini says the beauty of who your partner is more spectacular than any fantasy you may have about who they should be. In other words, exactly what you say. Stop trying to change me and accept me for who I am. The problem is, in my opinion, 7 billion humans, 7 billion different people. So now you meet somebody firstly of a different, I don't know if it's sex or gender these days, I'm too scared to actually go down that road, but you have two different people from different backgrounds, estrogen on one side and testosterone on the other, and you're suddenly living together and you're different. And now you have to get through all of that and work that out. And for example, the house often is the woman's domain, right? And if you don't believe me, get the biggest, ugliest painting you can, put it in the lounge and see how long it lasts, right? So, and I had a fun discussion with someone the other day. She was moaning about her husband and the house was untidy. So I said, well, who says the house must be tidy? She nearly had a heart attack. She said, well, obviously. I said, well, what makes it obvious? So, sometimes in marriages, when you're brave enough and you've been around long enough, you could start to say things like, but this is my house too. I also live there. Why is one opinion stronger than another? And it gets testy because, for example, when my wife and I, Jax, we love to bath together, but I like a hot bath and she likes a lukewarm bath. So I can't put into the heat I like. So when we're in the bath, I'm wishing I was in the shower, right? Because I'm cold. But there's some things you can't fix, like aircon. Like some people like it cold, some people like it warmer. Or music tastes. Like I love Pink Floyd and things she hates. She dislikes it, hates strong. But so we listen to her music often. So it's an interesting concept. It's a nice ideal that you speak of is just coming back to what attracted you initially. Unfortunately, and fortunately, we change over time. Jackie's not the woman I met and married. I'm not the man she married. We're both different, very different. And so managing change over time becomes a big thing in a marriage. We're two individual humans on a path and we intertwined. So we go to work in the day, we come home, we wake up in the morning together, so our lives are intertwined. But I think it's when we meet, we have this fairy tale, and you kind of one, and then after 2 or 3 years, you actually kind of come out of that, and you start to become yourself, and you start to need to take your power back, for want of a better word.
And I think there we have different seasons in marriage. You obviously have, like, for example, the season where you meet and you're falling in love or being attracted to each other, and then things start getting serious. Maybe you get engaged, then you get married, then you have kids, then the kids grow up, and then they move out, and then you have to find each other again. Like, there's multiple seasons in marriage, and I would like to go through some of those. But before we get to the seasons, I want to ask, just in general, speaking of statistically of getting married, and what society's, like, I think, perception of marriage is these days. Has the value of marriage changed these days, how we see it these days, or how we saw it a few years ago? Like, a lot of people these days don't necessarily see the point of getting married. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, 100%. So you've asked so many questions in one right there. I'm not quite sure exactly where to start. So yes, I think the value of marriage has changed. The divorce rate's about 52%. So in the Western world. In India, funnily enough, where they arranged marriages, which they do via astrology, the divorce rate is much lower. Okay, because they put two compatible people together instead of two chemically attracted people together. But we want to beat those stats. I think what's happening is good and bad at the same time. So people go, the values have changed. But I think there's good in it as well. I think we used to get married for the wrong reason. We used to get married to get out of home. And then we found alas, we have now married our father. It's just bad. But what I do feel is that it's like a car, right? In the olden days, you used to take the car to the mechanic and he'd fix it. Now he just pulls out one thing and puts in another. And I think we kind of like that with marriage as well. If it doesn't work, we'll pull out and then we'll marry someone else. And then we'll have 4 or 5 marriages and then call all of our exes narcissists.
Mm,
We're the problem.
There's a common denominator.
All of them have gone on to very happy marriages, all those narcissists. But, and it's interesting, I think there's a level of toxic in every relationship. And when the toxic gets too much, you split up. There's got to be, it's got to be more pleasant than unpleasant. What other question did you ask in that long sentence?
I think then we can go on to the seasons.
Yes.
So I think all 3 of us are in very different seasons of, let's say, the married life.
Yes.
Let's start at mine would probably be the first one. Before you even get engaged, you're maybe, yes, and maybe you're starting to think of marriage. What is kind of important? What do you need to know about your partner? What questions do you need to ask them? What is important to know? Like, do you actually want to marry this person? What's important to think of?
I think some of the most important ones, I did some coaching with a couple, counseling with a couple. One wanted kids and one didn't. And they were engaged. They were totally, fully, 100% in love. Just head over heels in love. But neither of them could budge, and we helped them to break up. Because, if you don't want a kid and you have one, you will resentment. If you didn't want one and did want one and didn't get one, you will resentment. So they decided to split. It was very sad. So I think you need to talk about children. You need to talk about kind of how aspiring each one of you is. So, how far you want to go career-wise. And also kind of where you want to live, what kind of life you want to lead. And when I do coaching, so coaching is when you're engaged, getting married, and counseling is when you're fighting 10 years later. One of the things that I like to talk about with my couples is which couples do you look up to? So who are your role models? And what's interesting, how difficult it is, and especially to find famous people who are happy. You've got to go to like Michelle Obama and maybe, but to find happily married famous people is very difficult. And even a lot of us have got parents who are divorced, or there's lots of divorce. So, and then you go, okay, so who do you revere? Who do you look up to and why? And that gives you a kind of a feel for where you'd want to go. You do need to ask each other if you are 10 million rand in debt. It's kind of important before going in.
A little, yeah.
And then, I do believe that you need to be sexually compatible. And I guess you need to test that out before you go there. Or, well, you can tell, but you can tell if there's chemistry, etc. And then also, I think it's important to be spiritually compatible. So that means if you're both atheists, or both reborn Christians, or both Muslim, it makes it easier. When you have an atheist with a reborn Christian, or a Muslim with a Christian, it complicates things. And it's already complicated because we're different genders or sexes, or which one of those is correct. So those are some of the things you need to talk about, in my opinion. And then, what do you want? What do you see? What does a marriage mean to you? What are the ingredients of a successful marriage? And then what are the divorceable acts? What will you leave me for? And you'll be amazed what you forgive someone for once or twice that you love. But you'll also be amazed at what people will walk out for. And if you don't know, then it's a surprise. So there's some frank discussions you need to have. And sometimes you need a facilitator like me for that. Quick plug.
So let's pause there at the divorceable acts. Are there a few things that across the board you would say people are like, if you do this, I'm out? Like, if I'm just thinking like cheating or doing this, or like you said earlier, if you go to jail for an extended period of time, like, what are the...
Yeah, generally people will always go unfaithful. However, you'll be surprised at how many people can forgive that, especially like a little glipsy, not a 5-year affair. So generally things will come up like if you become an alcoholic, or a drug addict, like my mom was alcoholic, or if you hit me, my dad hit my mom. And there's some obvious things like you murder someone or you rape someone, or some of those
Yeah,
things that are
yeah.
up there. So, and also, yeah, some people have got issues around pornography and drinking. So those are the main ones really that come up as important. One person said, if you lose your job and you lose your aspiration. So losing your job's fine as long as you're trying to find another one. But if you're sitting on the couch for 5 years watching the cricket and I'm working, I'm going to get frustrated with that at some stage. Or if you snort the bond money, you know. So those are kind of the things that come up. But it's good to check in and have that frank discussion so that you know this is. And you know the pornography one is interesting. When you go one deeper to that, I was upstairs in bed wanting to be intimate, and he was downstairs watching porn and sorting things out that way. So that's kind of unfaithful to me.
Stephen, you've been married for 32 years. In your experience, and I think you've alluded to that, some of these, if not most of them, of these discussions ought to be had beforehand. I think that can only better prepare one for what is to come. Yeah. Because having been married for 32 years yourselves, I'm sure you'll agree that challenges will come.
100%.
The fairy tale idea only lasts for so long. But when those challenges come, in your experience, share with us a bit of how you've dealt with some of these challenges, whatever they might have been, whatever you're willing to share, just on a practical level.
Sure. So I think the best way to answer this is like how to have an adult discussion or argument. And so there's some very interesting concepts. One of them that I find strugglesome, but I think is quite enlightened if you can do it, is that the answer to any request from your spouse, any serious request from your spouse, is always yes. Unless it's some weird stuff. That's a divorceable act, right?
Yeah.
So, like, can we go on holiday I've just returned from Rwanda, actually. Yeah, we spent some time with the gorillas. Absolutely stunning. So I want to go and see the gorillas. Answer, yes, if it's a really serious, proper question. Now, there's some really cool ways to manage discussions. And you know, there are two arguments. One, you're discussing things to find out what went wrong in order to change and get better. And the other one is, I'm obstinate and I'm right and we're fighting. And I will actually lie to win the argument. So when I'm in one of these now, I'll walk away. I just go, this is an argument now, I'm out of here. Let me know when you want to have an adult discussion and we can do so. So here's a cool ideal or a nice way, like you go, sweetheart, I've got something I want to share. Nothing major, don't be worried, but at 9 tonight, I'd like to you go, listen. And the partner's not like 9 o'clock tomorrow night. So yeah, and you know why it's effective. When someone gives you feedback, your first reaction is to defend yourself. You get defensive and you get into an argument, and that doesn't help. So what happens in 24 hours is actually you have some time to process it. The enlightened person will go, is she right or is he right? Am I wrong? Look at both sides, and then in 24 hours you'll generally go, that's actually quite interesting, okay, and then the next, then 24 hours tomorrow night, the other person replies, and you can't answer for 24 hours. So that's one way of just ensuring that it doesn't become an argument. And then the nice way of managing this kind of thing is feedback. And nobody likes unrequested feedback. Unsolicited feedback is never, and it can feel like nagging as well. So the way that a nice way of dealing with this is to go every once a week or once a month or once every quarter, whatever works for you. These are the 5 things I loved about this last month. These are the 5 things I disliked. No reply. Then these are the things I loved, these are the things I disliked. So there's no arguing, and it's actually very effective because, to be frank with you, my wife's not great at feedback. So this is good because I know that when I give her feedback, she processes it. So she kind of gets defensive and argumentative immediately, and I just leave it. And then but she gets better. So she processes it. You don't need to kind of win the fight. You don't need to get an apology. Oh my word, we're now in funny area with apologies. So that's just a nice way of dealing with that. Who needs a mic?
No, I think sometimes our wives might feel like they need a mic. Well, in my case, I sometimes talk a bit
literally.
I'm going to take my mic off because I think we are having some technical difficulties here.
Okay.
Thank you, tech team. I think those are wise words.
And they're not easy to actually. They're actually not easy to do. It takes work, but marriage is work.
It's work.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen by itself.
Caitlin, you want to do phases, or have you got a?
And yeah, so I have, obviously now we've spoken about marriage being between the relationship between the two people. What happens when you throw kids in the mix?
Yeah. So the biggest divorce statistic, or when people get divorced, is 7 years, 2 kids. And you know what happens, and it just is. Oh, listen to my voice. It just is. So when wife becomes a mom, her focus changes to the kids, and that's 100% acceptable and the way it is. It's just the way it is. But can be tough on dad, because he used to have all of you and now he has very little. The first year I was in sleep deprivation, quite frankly. It was quite something. So things change quite dramatically. And then, yes, you have empty nest when the kids leave, and then you have, when you go on pension, then you're both back together. And then here's one that you may never have heard of or never have thought of, and it's very relevant right now, is the divorce rate goes up, and actually gender-based violence goes up during menopause. Yeah. So I have a rule, my wife's going through menopause right now. We're not allowed to divorce during menopause. You've got to get through it. Okay. And then if you want to leave me, we can talk about it. But you don't make any decisions in this time. It's been 5 years. As boys, we didn't realize. I mean, we thought it was like a 3-month thing, but it's been 5 years. And she's been great. It's been fine. There are some really horrible cases, but divorce rate goes up during menopause.
That is very, very interesting, and I want to touch
Please
on that.
Research it.
Why? Is there something, obviously, as a woman, your body changes. Is it to do with chemicals? Maybe you're not as attracted to your husband anymore during that period. Like, what changes that when you hit that stage, you're suddenly thinking, oh no?
One of the interesting things, so there are 2 things really. Two things, so mood swings, okay, because of the chemical reaction. But what actually happens is oxytocin levels get lower, and that's the bonding agent. So she's going, why am I putting up with this AH?
Very interesting.
Yes. After hours, that AH is. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I can see I'm making you think, and that's
Yes,
part of my mission on life, is
I'm
to
definitely gonna-
create thoughts. And
Yeah, go home and think on that one.
yeah,
So-
research that one. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
I researched it because of stuff happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I guess the next season would be after kids. So let's say you've spent 18 or 20 or these days 25 or 30 years raising your kids, and so much of your time and your focus has been on the kids, and you might not know your partner as well as you once, or as you want to, or as you once did. How do you reconnect? What can you do to find each other again? Obviously, taking into account like menopause and things, which is something we're learning now. But how do you find each other again and connect again?
Yeah, and it's so one of the dangers around this is that wife becomes mom, which there's no issue around. It's the way it is. For a good couple of, like, 2 decades almost. And then the kids go and then she comes back. But Dad's kind of found golfing friends and drinking friends and darts friends, whatever it might be. And then, wife comes back and goes, I'm back. And he's like, yeah, I've created a whole life without you, kind of thing. So it's testy. My suggestion is, and Jax and I have done this a lot, and we do karate together, we do yoga together, we meditate together, we go on holidays, lots of holidays, we eat out a lot. We have a massive eating out budget because her love language is quality time. So we sit facing each other, we put our phones down like that, and we're forced to be together. Also, when I do long trips on business, she comes with. So if it's a day, like 3 hours there, 3 hours back, and then we chat in the car. So we have as human beings, we have a set of values. John DeMartini's axiology, it's the study of human behavior. On the top of our values or needs or wants or desires are all of the things we love and enjoy. So for example, golf or watching Netflix or doing work or whatever that might be. And at the bottom are things you don't like for me, washing the dishes, tidying up, mowing the lawn, cleaning the pool, that kind of stuff. It's like low down. Oh, visiting Jack's parents and her family. I mean, when she's in her high values, I'm not. And when I'm in my high values, she's not. So marriage is actually, and this is an original thought, marriage is a conflict of high values. When your partner's at their happiest, you probably aren't, and vice versa, because you have different high values. And so what we need to do is we need to put marriage in there on purpose and say this is a high value to both of us, and then we have to work at keeping it there. And even if that means putting into the diary date night or Chinese night or whatever terminology you have for that. So you need to actively make sure you're doing things together, otherwise you grow apart. And so Jax is high up at Discovery. She's gone on a very corporate thing. She's gone to corporate training and so she's changed dramatically in that way. Sometimes she thinks I'm her PA and she can boss me around. And I've gone on a very spiritual journey, very free. She's very tired, I'm very free. She works hard and long, I just work hard and short. And then I play golf and do stuff I enjoy rather than work hard. Yes.
Stephan, you call yourselves a marriage coach, and I can hear by what you are sharing with us that it's coming from the heart, not only from the head, and that's good because I think people can identify with that. But as Caitlin said earlier, and I mean there are some of them here on the table tonight. You have written quite a few books.
Yes. Thank you.
Each one for a particular purpose and perhaps for a particular season.
Yeah.
And I would encourage our viewers to go and have a look at these books and perhaps not just have a look at the cover but actually read the content. Because from what you've shared, it's evident that what's in the books will also be coming from the heart.
100%. Thank you. So the good news is that you can get PDF downloads of most of them free. So my first one, actually the only one that's not published in writing is So You're Alive Now What? That's a philosophical look at life and the meaning of life. And I believe, have we got time? Do you want to tell me what you think the meaning of life is, or should I just go ahead? Come on, let's get you guys involved. Why are we here? What's the meaning of life? What are we on earth for?
Seeing that I went first
Yeah.
earlier, I think
the fly-off gives it back to the scrum off.
Right now.
Yes.
inside pass.
Yeah.
I think
You're getting it back.
I think that is a question that I ask the people close to me quite a lot, because it is something that I think we all want to know. And you can go scientific, you can go religious, spiritual. But I am at the season of my life where I'm trying to discover that, and I don't know. I think that is my answer right now to why are we here is I don't know, and I'm actively trying to read and see and trying to figure that out. To me right now, if I had to give an answer, it would be relationships. And I don't know how or why, but relationships, obviously we've been put here with like how many, 1 billion people on the planet, and relationships with ourselves, with each other, I think would be right now my definition, but I'm really in the season of trying to figure it out. So my biggest answer would be right now is I don't know.
Beautiful, I love that. It's a nice place to be, actually, when I work this stuff out. It's actually a very cool place because it's a quest, and that's why I call my business Life Quest Coaching, because life's a quest. It's a quest for understanding and success and fulfillment. And I have got to a point where I now measure success by your ability to make a series of goals that are important to you and achieve them. It's irrespective of what that goal is. It's got nothing to do with anyone else on earth. Andre, why are we here?
I think, again, and I'll try and summarize, but for me, I think, first of all, I don't think that we were created to go through life alone. And I think, again, Caitlin touched on it. We were made for relationships. Now, whatever you might believe, I think our first inclination, our first relational need, if you will be a relationship with our Creator.
Yes.
So that for me would be the first port of call, and then secondly, the people around us. In this instance, and for the purpose of this discussion, that would be my wife, your wife, in your instance, husband to be.
Lucky bugger.
But and within those confines, to live in such a way that we represent what it is that we believe. I think if we can achieve that, then I think we've struck a chord in terms of why are we here.
So thank you. So I'd like to add one thought into that I think is quite important and hopefully profound. So yes, your relationship with your Maker is the most important. However, the next important one is the one with yourself. You will be with yourself your whole life. It's the longest relationship you'll be in, and if you're not whole, and if you don't love yourself, you can't love someone else.
True.
Beautifully. So you knew that, I know, I was just reminding you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, and actually it's quite interesting because in my opinion, all traits are worth something because our Creator made them. So actually, people go, oh, you mustn't be selfish. Maybe you mustn't be overly selfish, but you need to be selfish because that's the relationship with you. You actually need to ensure that you are in a good place. You come first, and then everyone else around you. So my opinion, humble as it isn't, because I'm a Leo, is the meaning of life is growth, spiritual growth. The people I revere, kind of, it's a bit controversial, and we don't need to discuss it too much, is that they arrived human and left master. So Jesus arrived and became more, and Martin Luther King became more, and Gandhi became more, and Madiba became more. So it's quite scary that a lot of the people I revere were either crucified or assassinated. It's a bit of a worry. But, so for me it's climbing Maslow's hierarchy to self-actualization, and people call it different things, samadhi or enlightenment, and that self-actualization actually is self-validation. So I was born into a strange family, and I developed or came out of that with low self-esteem. The blessing of low self-esteem is that I'm an overachiever. I've achieved massive stuff, but I achieved all of that to get the external validation. So it took me 60 years, let's call it, to start to realize that doesn't happen, and the people in your life realize you're needy and they stop giving it to you. And so now when I have a little fantasy about, like tonight I'll go, I had a great talk, maybe I'll get, somebody will say that was marvelous, then I'll go, no, it was marvelous. It's self-validation. I don't need Andre to tell me. I wouldn't mind, Caitlin, but thank you. So I'm putting more value on me going, like tonight we're having a good talk, right? I'm enjoying myself and it's inspiring and I'm inspired, I'm loving it. So I like it, but I don't need it. And when I feel the need, then I validate myself. And that it's very powerful and it starts to take you into very cool new places.
So I wanted to...
It's got nothing to do with marriage. We're off the track. The meaning of life we got to somehow or other, it was the books.
Of the validation from someone else kind of ties in with a lot of times when you watch films about love, like, this person is my other half, or I wouldn't be, anyone without this person, or they complete me. And something that my dad has actually always told me was that you have to be a whole yourself.
Yes.
And the other person can complement you,
yes.
But it can never make you whole, because you're not a half. 100%. So I think my question would be then is, how do you form that relationship with yourself first, and how do you become whole in yourself before you go and put someone else into that equation and complicate it?
Sure, well, and you're very fortunate to be born at this time, or the time you were 2 years ago?
2002.
What? So can you imagine being that young? So in my era, in my parents' era, your parents' era, we were taught, and especially girls, that you needed a man to complete you. And as a man, you needed a wife who would kind of look after you. And that hasn't worked. It's because it's not true. So you've been born into an era where you don't need anyone to complete you. You are complete. And that gives you so much more chance of succeeding. Because, so if you go into a marriage going, I'm marrying this person subconsciously because I think I need to be married to be a woman or to be complete. And then I need to have 2 children, because that's what a woman does. Now you've got this society-inflicted belief of what you should be. And then you get it and you go, I'm hating this. I really don't like it. And then you have a midlife crisis and go and do silly things, like we grow ponytails and buy a Harley.
Are you speaking from experience?
No.
Not in that instance.
No. Yeah. I don't. I think I have gone through that, but it was not too hectic. You see, we're very fortunate. We're both very free. So not in an open marriage, but we're not that free. But we're very free and we're very easygoing. I have a belief that we should experience as much as we can. In fact, I believe that we kind of, as humans, we experience everything. So there'll be someone in your life who's stolen money from you or who's been unfaithful to you. Maybe not in a relationship, but in a job environment or something like that, or lied to you, or or hurt you, or spoke badly about you. So I think we'll go through losing a pet or losing a child, or we'll go through everything. And and we think everything should be good. So this meaning of life thing, right, is this growth. So the meaning of life, in my opinion, is growth, right? But the ups and downs in everything. In a marriage, the ups and downs. In business, the ups and downs. In health, the ups and downs. And so the question is, and it's rhetorical, when do we grow? During the good times or the tough? So the meaning of life is actually the tough times. It's the tough times. So I believe we get the tough times to grow, and then God goes, I've given you enough. Have a little happy time just to recover. And then we go in some more soul involvement, and we grow through the tough times. And marriage and parenthood bring you all of the experiences to self-actualize or have a successful life, or however you want to look at that. But speaking about divorce, and it might be controversial, I apologize up front if I annoy anyone, not you two, but anyone out there, is that I think it's better to be divorced than be in an unhappy marriage. Right? And people stay together for the kids, and then later on the kids go, but Mom, why did you stay married to that after hours? What? And they go, oh, we did it for you. Why did you do it for us? We hate him. You kept him around for longer. So, and the kids know. So, I think it's better to be married than not. And you wanted to ask a question about the relevance of marriage. But I think it's better to stay married than divorced. But if it's unpleasant, if you get clapped around and you can leave, you should. 100%. So, you asked earlier when we were chatting, why get married? And so there are two things that I think are important. So living together, I have no issue with. That's not for me to comment on. I did, and my daughter did, and I don't expect anyone not to. I think it's prudent. But gosh, I've lost my train of thought. Help me. Can you remember where I was going? Why get married? Thank you. So having a senior moment there. So when you're 60, you get away with it. So the thing is that when you're married, you become each other's next of kin. And so if you, like for example right now, if you were married and you were on life support, then your husband decides whether to turn the machines off or not. And if you're not, your parents decide. So you become each other. Don't cry, Caitlin. It's not that. You're not going to die.
No, because can I tell a story?
Yes, did I hit a nerve there?
I met a stranger the other day, and he's not even from this country. He lives in like Portugal or something. And it was a total coincidence that I was there, and he told us about his wife that had a very rare disease, and she was on life support, and the doctor said, like, we're going to switch off the machines. Like, you have 3 days to say goodbye, and then you have to switch it off. And then I think it was on the second day or the third day or something, they got lungs for her, and they did a double lung transplant.
Wow.
And it's a few years later now, and she's like back to work and recovered and doing amazing. And I don't know what the point was of the story, but I just wanted to cry because I think
it's very sad.
Touch
wood, I'm never in that situation.
And he said, obviously it was her husband, and he just said, no, I'm not giving up yet. I think they might have said he has 24 hours or something, and he said, no, give me 3 days. And then on that second or on that third day, then that just came through, and anyways.
Moving right along.
Continuing your story.
Now the other thing is, I'm a bit old-fashioned in this regard. I think that if you have children, it's better to be married. It's better for the kids to have married parents. And I'm going to say this a bit and I'm nervous too, but actually what happens is it gives the man some rights. Because if you don't get married and you have a child, you have the only right you have is paying for its education. So when you get married, firstly it's better for the kid, and then also you've both got rights more rights to the outcome of the kid.
I'm thinking now of, I think I'm mentioning my dad a lot because he's given me a lot of wisdom in life.
Well, bless his soul. What is his name?
Anton.
Anton, good job.
So, like you said about the rights, about, men, we all assume that as the woman you have the kid, so you don't really necessarily, like you've had the child, so you don't, how do I say this? So you automatically become the mum. But whereas with a man, it's almost, they say it's easier to walk away.
Yes, I would imagine. I'm not a woman in this lifetime, but I would imagine it's much easier because you carried it for 9 months and you gave birth. It's not a pleasant experience. And so yes, you would be much more attached.
And but then basically his standpoint was always saying, like, you still have to choose. even if I've given birth to a baby now, like I still choose to be its mom and be present and build a relationship. With
Or give
them.
it up for adoption.
Yeah.
What's the other? Or
Yeah, well, I mean, you can still raise it, but that maybe you didn't necessarily want kids and you accidentally got pregnant and now it's like, okay, now you have to, that kind of thing. So it's also, but I think more on a spiritual level of really deciding like, I do want to form this relationship. It's not just like an adult-child relationship, but eventually it will also become an adult-adult relationship where, you might become friends or things like that.
Yep. Caitlin, you speak about relationships, and the actual truth is, as humans, we suck at relationships. I'm not friends with many of my school friends. Matric, we said, we'll have a 5-year and a 10-year and a 15. We never did. Most people actually are fighting with some family member, usually dad, but often mom and dad or brother and sister aren't talking. And I experience it all the time in the work I do. When you look at humans, we actually are not good at all. So your best friend, maybe yours, but your best friend at school, you probably chat to on Facebook now and again, but you probably don't do Christmas lunch together. You're probably not friends anymore.
To be honest, I saw him about probably 8 years ago. I saw him for the first time in I don't know how many years, and it was almost a disappointment that I haven't even spoken to him since. Nothing wrong with him, nothing wrong with the situation being that. I just realized that life happened to the both of us.
Yes.
And we've moved along and we've grown apart.
Yep.
It's part of the seasons of life, if you will.
Yeah. So, and then I like to morph that discussion into, because like divorce is such a big taboo. But if you look, maybe not you, Caitlin, but the rest of us, if you look at our past, I had a couple of girlfriends before marrying Jackie and broke up with them. So that's like a mini divorce. So actually we're quite used to breaking up or divorcing people to get to we have to kiss some frogs to find the prince. Did I just say that? Don't read me wrong, anyone out there. It was just a cliche. So we're not really great. And look, even at work, like how many times have you had a conversation with someone that says, my boss is an idiot? It's like almost a cliche. And you arrive all bushy-tailed and bright-eyed, and 2 years later you're fighting with the person. And that's a relationship. So we're not really good. We're not really good at. Now we try to get into 70. When you get married, it's 70 years because science is keeping us alive longer. You're going to live to 120, so yeah, you are. And so you've got 90 years of marriage.
That's a long time.
Yes, ma'am.
It's a big decision.
Yes, you only get 5 for shooting someone through the door.
I remember, like I said, my wife and I would be married 20 years in the middle of next year. But when we were newlyweds, we must have been married 2-3 weeks. And our next door neighbor, the one morning I came walking out the front door and I was standing on the front lawn, and this lady looked across the hall and she said, "Good morning, Andre, how are you?" I said, "Very well, thank you, ma'am, and yourself?" And she got a smile on her face and she said, "Very, very well." And I looked at her kind of perplexed and I said, "Well, why are you very, very well today?" She said, "My husband and I are married for 50 years this morning." And with me being married for 3 weeks at that time, I looked at her and I thought, man, you got a long way to go. Yes. But again, I took courage from that to say, but it is possible.
Yes.
Because you touched on it earlier to say, but the divorce rate is sitting at 52%.
Yeah. So the success rate is 48.
Now, unless, which used to be a fail, but these days, anyhow.
But so half is not bad. I mean, it's actually there's a reasonable chance that you'll stay
that
married.
you'll stay married. I think though, and with yourself being a marriage, not counsellor, coach, as you said, because you said counselling's for when it's gone bad. But the facts are that not all marriages last for 20, 30, 40, 50 years and beyond. Maybe as a closing thought, how do you coach somebody? And maybe this leans more towards the counselling side, but how do you take somebody by the hand and walk them through this process once a marriage has gotten to that point where somebody, one of the partners or perhaps both, have said, I don't see this moving forward. I don't see this carrying on.
You know, it's quite interesting, and I'll share with you one of my superpowers. Other than my one superpower is when I move into the fast lane on the highway, it becomes the slow lane, right? But my real superpower is saving marriages. The irony is I don't enjoy it because you're basically sitting arbitrating two people fighting and then trying to tie things together. And in a 3-hour session, I've actually been very, very successful in turning things around. But that's on condition both of them want to make it work. You can fix just about anything unless there's weird stuff. Okay, so one couple, and I'll share with you, he was always talking about, when they were making love, he was always talking about a third person. Imagine Sarah was here, and that got on her nerves after a while, which I could, like she said, and I said to her, but you knew that this was happening before, right? She said, yeah, I thought it would go away, and it didn't. So it's difficult to also, when people come to me, I go, listen, I can help you. There's a 90% chance, but I don't know how long it will take and how much it will cost. And a lot of people, actually, sadly, they'll drop $500,000 on their wedding, but not 10 grand to save it. Yeah.
Okay.
I like it when you smile like that. It's like, oh, that's a good point. But we're getting to the end. I'm sad. Can't we go on forever? I love chatting to you guys.
I would honestly love to sit here for so long, but I can see our team over there.
Get them a Red Bull. Get them a Jaeger bomb.
But we've been going on for a long time, so we'll definitely have to get you back on
1
the
hour
show.
you had with me.
Again, Stephen, like I would love a Joe Rogan podcast of 3 hours with you. I think that would be fantastic.
Agreed. I would be very happy to do so.
But I do think before we close out, are there any final thoughts? Because I can see the team there saying like.
Sure. So there are 4 things right now that for a long-lasting, fulfilling marriage, and that is the first one is managing diversity. Just stop trying to change each other, and you know what feedback is. I saw you do this, and I think you should have done this my way. You did it your way. I think you should have done. That's what feedback is, and it's not particularly enlightened. The next one, so my 3 ingredients are commitment, courage, and friendship. So commitment to enjoy the good times, work through the tough, see this through to the end. And you'll probably know and recognize, or at least see, that in any marriage you'll be made some offers, and especially you, Caitlin, you'll have some dude going, how about your husband's away, how about a little dirty weekend? And you've got to say, the enlightened person goes, that would probably be very nice, thank you very much, but no, I'm married, right? So that's why we can't hold hands, because I'm married. I've been wanting to all my... So it's willpower. It's actually, and there'll be times when you're in a down, and you go, should we throw in the towel? And you go, no, this is a commitment. We committed to our marriage. Let's see this through because of the good times. So that's the commitment. Then courage. So I know it's a weird one, but it's courage to have the important conversations, keep each other accountable. So there's something that's bothering me we need to chat about before it builds resentment, which is a word you used earlier. Resentment's the cancer in relationships. It builds and builds and builds. Too late. And then friendship. If I believe you need to marry your best friend. I think marriage is about taking someone you love with you on this beautiful journey called life, pooling your resources and reaching out to create something more special. Marriage is quite selfish. You married your wife so that no one else held her hand in the movies. You didn't want to share her with the rest of us. You are selfish. And we believe that being married will be more fulfilling than not being married. And so those are the four things. Just stop trying to change each other. Be committed to each other. And have the difficult conversations so that you keep each other sane and then just be best friends. Become and remain best friends. Because when the chemistry phase moves and you're into the empty nest time, that's when you need to be best friends, companions, travel partners, and friends with benefits, I guess. Doesn't go away. It just the times in between get longer. I'm going to leave it there. I do have another part to that, but it'll make Andre blush.
Part 2.
Yes.
We will definitely have to have you back on the show.
Thank you. I'd love to do that.
For longer too. And for anyone out there, all our viewers, if you want to find him, he has a website called Life Quest Coaching. And you can go and search him up. He's got books.
The books are on stephanvanbasten.co.za. You can download them free.
There we go.
Thank you.
I love that. That is awesome. And then just thank you so much for sitting down with us today. Like, I really think I really enjoyed this conversation, and I myself have a lot of things I can go and think about, and I hope our viewers too, like, this has been some insight, and maybe you're thinking of getting married or you're struggling with something right now, and maybe you can just get the wheels turning a little bit.
Beat the odds.
Yeah.
Beat the odds.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's been fabulous spending time with you. It's been fulfilling for me as well. Yeah. And if I made you think, then my work here is done. No. Okay. Still more people to inspire. Watch for the lightning. No.
I love that.
Beautiful.
Okay. And then one last thank you to our viewers as well. Thank you for being here, and we will be hosting these shows for the next 2 weeks, and with lots of interesting guests as well. Once again, Stephen, thank you so much for coming. And then subscribe so you don't miss any of these shows and these wonderful conversations. And yeah, I think that's all from our side. So thank you very much.
If I may, I think just to remember, have a look at our events calendar. We mentioned it earlier, and also our business directory. I'm sure you will find lots of quality connections there where you could perhaps become part of what is happening in Centurion in that sense as well, not only as a client or a customer, but also we do have advertising space available if you feel that this is a platform to which you want to become part of and make a contribution in that sense of becoming part of the community that you are already living in, but also with the dream and the vision that we run with to put your weight within that. So please have a look at that, and we look forward to partnering up with you in that sense. Thank you so much.
Here we go. Thank you.